Hi guys, welcome to today's session. Thank you all for your responses on yesterday. And our yesterday's quiz question was, you are given a statement to identify the region where deciduous forests are found. And the answer is option B. Deciduous forests are seen on the place where a moderate amount of seasonal rainfall for a long time. So that is the right answer. We will move to today's session. First question for the day. With regard to additional tier 1 bonds, consider the following statements. Statement 1, they are a type of unsecured perpetual bonds that banks issue to shore up their core capital base to meet the Basel III norms. And statement 2, these bonds have no maturity date. Which of the above statements is are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D neither 1 nor 2. So the correct answer here is option C, both the statements are correct. Guys, let's understand what are additional tier 1 bonds. Suppose that I am planning to start a bank, and if you see the balance sheet of the bank, every bank has assets and liabilities. And here to my bank, I myself donated 1 crore rupees so that it forms the asset as cash 1 crore. Here I am a household and bank is a private company. So I as the owner have given the bank this 1 crore money, and the bank will give me a share document in return. And it forms in the liability side that bank records that the owner has given 1 crore to the bank. And with this cash, bank can do anything. Bank can begin businesses, bank can purchase building, anything they can do, it is their discretion. Suppose that bank purchased a building worth 1 crore with this money. Now the bank wants further money, so the bank issues bond to the normal people. Suppose the bank issued 1 lakh bond of worth rupees 200 each. So now the bank raised another 2 crores from the bond, and it forms in the bank's asset, and the bonds worth 2 crores will be presented on the liability side. And this money the bank will lend to its customers as loans. Now, as we all know, we will deposit money in bank. Suppose we all put rupees 3 crore as deposit money, and we get a deposit slip back from the bank. This deposit is an asset for us, but for the bank it is a liability. And if you look into this sheet, you can see two class of investors who put money into bank. Though there are three entities, we can classify them as two class of investors. One is equity holders or shareholders. That means they put money on the basis of return basically. And another class of people are people who put money on fixed interest rates, and they are called creditors. And that are the two class of investors. If you see the total asset of the bank here, it is 6 crore and the liability also same. Once again, the asset 6 crore can be used by the bank to give loans, purchase assets, anything they can do, it is their discretion. Now suppose that the bank became bankrupt. Means when the bank is not able to pay its creditors, then the bank is declared bankrupt. Now what happens is all these assets in the left column of our chart will get sold in the market, and the money will be distributed among creditors and shareholders. And who will get the money first here? It is the creditors who get the money first, and then if something is left, shareholders will get their money. And out of creditors, depositors have the most priority. So in case of a bankrupt, if we go by your example, the depositor's 3 crore money is protected by 6 crores of assets. And the takeaway point here is, if in the asset side, the shareholders and the bondholders money is more, then the depositors are safer. Got it? Like in this case, if the shareholder and bondholders money is more than 10 crore, then the bank can easily manage 3 crore of depositors money in case of a bankruptcy. So the shareholders and the bondholders money are together called as capital. So the capital adequacy ratio is calculated by this entire shareholder and bondholders money divided by total assets. Now coming to the tier 1 bonds. Here we have shareholders money, bondholders money and depositors money, and out of it shareholders money is riskier because if the bank goes bankrupt, they are the last one to get money. What if when the bank goes bankrupt, they will distribute the depositors money first, and if there is something left, the bondholders' money will be distributed. And finally, if there is anything left, the shareholders will get their money back. So the shareholders' money is considered as tier 1 capital and bondholders' money is tier 2 capital. Now we have certain type of bonds for which the priority is least, that is an additional tier 1 bond. And these bonds are issued by the bank to raise additional capital, and this additional tier 1 bond, even if it is a bond, they have least priority, means they have less priority within the shareholders also. That is, if a bank goes bankrupt, first depositors will get their money, then the bondholders will get their money, then if there is something left, shareholders will get their money, and finally only the additional tier 1 bondholders can claim their money after shareholders. And the additional tier 1 bond has certain features, as in if the bank goes bankrupt and facing severe capital crisis, then RBI may write off additional tier 1 bonds. Write off means people who have purchased tier 1 bonds, they are receiving interest. And these tier 1 bonds are perpetual in nature, which means it may be possible that bank never pay the principal amount of this bond. They just keep on paying interest amounts. Usually banks pay the principal amount of additional tier 1 bonds just after 5 to 10 years. But there is no such condition that to pay the principal amount back. It is optional with the bank. So recently with the Yes Bank crisis, RBI write off the additional tier 1 bonds of the bank means Yes Bank will stop paying the interest as well as it will not pay the principal amount. So that is the basic idea of additional tier 1 bonds. It was in news related with the Yes Bank crisis. So it is a much hot topic this year. So please study that. Now we'll move to second question. Second question is with reference to Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. It was introduced by the colonial government to tackle the epidemic of bubonic plague that had spread in erstwhile Bombay Presidency in the 1890s. And statement 2. It has never been invoked in independent India. And statement 3. It provides penalties for disobeying any regulation or order made under the Act. So which of the above statements is are correct? Option A 1 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D 1, 2 and 3. So the correct answer here is option C 1 and 3 only. In March 2020, this act was invoked to fight the COVID-19 outbreak. The act empowers the state governments to take special measures and prescribe regulations in an epidemic. It defines penalties for disobedience of these regulations and provides for immunity for actions taken under the act. The Epidemic Diseases Act is routinely enforced across the country for dealing with outbreaks of diseases such as swine flu, dengue, etc. And through an ordinance, the Cabinet recently amended the 1897 Act. The amendment made commission or abatement of acts of violence against healthcare workers as cognizable, non-bailable offence. The offenders will be punished with imprisonment and fine. So that was in news. Moving to the last question for the day. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. An outbreak is a sudden rise in the cases of a disease in a particular place. And statement 2. An epidemic is a large outbreak among a particular population or region. Statement 3. A pandemic is the worldwide spread of a new disease which would at least touch 20 countries. Which of the above statements is are correct? Option A 2 and 3 only, option B 1 and 3 only, option C 1, 2 and 3, and option D 1 and 2 only. So the correct answer here is option D 1 and 2 only. So guys, these terms are in news recently every day, and an outbreak is understood to be a sudden rise in the cases of a disease in a particular place, and an epidemic, as explained by WHO, is the regional outbreak of an illness that spreads unexpectedly. It refers to an increase, often sudden, in the number of cases of a disease beyond what is normally expected in the population of an area. Examples of epidemics in India in the past include outbreaks of Zika virus, chikungunya and dengue fever. And pandemic refers to an epidemic that has spread across countries and continents, the worldwide spread of a new disease. There is no specific number of countries that a disease must touch for WHO to classify it as a pandemic. And guys, our today's quiz question is, in 2009, WHO declared a disease as a global pandemic. Which disease is that? Please post your answers in the comment section. So that's all for today, guys. We'll meet tomorrow. Post your scores also in the comment section. Thank you for watching.